Hello, everybody. This is Brian Ankney with AutoSuccess. Hey, I appreciate you all taking the time out of your day to join us today. Got a great topic for you. Today, my guest is Chris Miller. He's the CEO of Recall Masters. And we're going to talk about how you're going to rein in the recall revolution. I'm sure that there's probably no one that works in a dealership environment that hasn't, in some way, had their job and maybe even their daily, their daily activities affected by recalls. This is definitely a historic time for recalls going on right now in our country. Dealerships can't get parts. People are parking their cars behind stores. There's all kinds of crazy things going on right now. So we're going to talk today about how to rein in this recall revolution and maybe take something that a lot of you were looking at as a negative and turn it into a positive. There's no question that we all need to be aware of the liabilities that come with recalls, but there is an opportunity to grow your business. And Chris is going to share a little bit about all of that with us today. Now, before we get started, a couple of things I'd like to go over. We're going to hold all the questions till the end of the webinar. So if you're on a laptop, a PC, or a tablet, on the right side of your screen, you should have a GoToWebinar pane. Near the bottom of that pane is a spot that says questions. If you hit that plus sign right next to questions, it will give you a place to type in your questions. And just go ahead and type them in as we go so you don't forget them, and we will get to all of them at the end. One more thing. Oh, well, actually, depending on what type of device you're on. If you're on an Apple phone or if you are on a Android, somewhere on your screen, you're going to have a frame that goes all the way around your screen, and somewhere on there is a question mark. If you touch that question mark, it will allow you to ask questions, and then it's a little confusing, but once you're done typing in your question, hit the screen, and that little picture of a screen looks like a monitor. That will take you back to the webinar. It is a little confusing. I know the first couple times I did it, I quit the webinar twice. But yeah, just hit the screen, it'll take you back. Now, one thing I want to remind everybody about, and then we're going to get started, is if you have not yet, please join AutoSuccess webinars. It's a group on Facebook. When you're on Facebook, you go to the search bar up at the top and type in AutoSuccess webinars. It'll take you to our group, request to become a member, and then from there, you'll never miss another webinar. You'll always know where to go to find upcoming webinars. You can interact with our speakers, but most importantly, you can interact with each other. Almost everybody on this call today is going to, come away with a page or two of notes, and you're all going to go back and try to implement this stuff, and you're going to have successes and failures. I invite you to share those on AutoSuccess webinars and work together to help, to help other dealers or managers just like yourself achieve the things that you want to achieve. With that being said, Chris, if you'd like to, go ahead and take it away. You want to share your screen?
Absolutely. So I just want to make sure everyone can hear me here.
Yep, you sound great.
Excellent. And I am turning my screen on now so we can go ahead and get started with the presentation. Thanks everyone for joining this morning or this afternoon, depending upon where you're located. My name is Chris Miller. I'm the CEO of Recall Masters. We've obviously developed a very timely product given how relevant recalls are in the market today across all of the manufacturers. We see everything from fines coming out to some very significant safety defects, and that was obviously the genesis of our business, realizing that dealers needed help in addressing recalls at the dealership level. So we know that the OEMs are doing a lot to push out recall communications to consumers, and where Recall Masters really helps is in that last mile with helping the dealer outreach. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about Recall Masters, where we are as a company and the state of recalls in the U.S., and then I'll go into some of our products and what dealers should be doing. And I'll keep the presentation primarily educational in that you can certainly be implementing some of the topics we're discussing at the dealer level without necessarily utilizing a service provider such as ours, but obviously if you're short-staffed in any way or you would like to outsource management of various facets of the business that recalls affect, then it makes a lot of sense to contract with a company such as ours. Recall Masters is the leader in automotive recall news, data, training, and communications. A lot of people don't realize that in addition to helping to identify vehicles with open recalls, we're also producing consumer-facing news reports that help to address all of the major recalls that come out. That's available through our website at recallmasters.com. where we have over 20 articles and 4 videos published every month for all of the major recalls across all of the OEMs. So we're very much trying to be both a consumer resource and a dealership resource. On the training side, we help to bring what are your traditional service advisors up to speed with what we call recall advisors and build out a recall department. And obviously every dealership needs a recall department these days, as recalls that is more and more relevant. It is a different class of customer than your average customer, in that recalled vehicle owners really run the emotional gamut from confused and scared to frustrated and downright angry, and they really need certain types of skills and hand-holding that is maybe not the way that they're typically managed today. So what we offer through the Recall Masters Academy is training to your team, whether the call center and BDC service advisors or and the service advisors in the service lane alike. And then once your dealership's up to speed with how to manage recalls, we have a communications program and a set of tools that your dealership can utilize at every point in the customer ownership life cycle, the vehicle ownership life cycle, to address these recalled vehicles and determine when a vehicle has a recall, whether or not there's parts available, and how to bring those consumers in. We have over 40 data sources we use to identify recalled vehicle owners, a lot of alternate sources of information. I'll talk about that later on in the presentation. Obviously, we support all of the major OEMs and brands, and we have the largest catalog of recalls where we track recall-specific information such as parts availability, level of difficulty to make recall repairs, and the amount of labor time required, and the profitability associated with a dealership, along with the risk score to the consumer, so we can isolate those nuisance and sticker owner's manual label recalls from ones that truly pose a specific safety risk to the consumer. On the consumer side, we also have a nonprofit site called motorsafety.org, where again we're publishing major articles across the industry related to recalls, and we allow consumers to come online and check their recall status by entering a VIN on our website, and we tell them all of the open recalls on their vehicle. We let them know if there are parts available to repair those recalls, and we can make referrals to a local dealership, and this is something we're providing free of charge at motorsafety.org. You will see across our services as well and our communications, we incorporate our motorsafety.org branding as a validating brand which consumers can identify with to determine their recall status. And obviously on the Recall Master side is what we use to service businesses and software providers and integration partners, as well as dealerships. So I do encourage you to visit motorsafety.org. And that ties in as well to our mobile app that we're releasing that allows consumers to check any vehicle in their household for recalls, and it's got a VIN scanner built in, so it makes it very easy for them during that process. Recall Masters has services across 2 major channels. Obviously on the communications end, we help identify customers in your DMS that are lost customers, sold never serviced customers, or your active customers, such that we can bring them in using direct mail, email, telemarketing campaigns to notify them of the recall, their recall status, and we'll get into this in just a few minutes. And we can identify customers in your market, whether it's inside your PMA or AOR or even outside your AOR. We can help identify recalled vehicle owners that have never visited your store before. So our program is very effective at going after those 52% of consumers that are servicing at independent repair centers currently and bringing them in your store. Obviously, you're in a unique position with recalls because they can only visit a factory certified dealership. So you'll see that as we send out blended campaigns consisting of customers and conquest customers, we're able to bring in typically about 48% of the customers we bring in to a store are those that have never visited before. A lot of secondary, third, fourth, fifth owners that are great trade-in opportunities. Maybe they've got equity in their vehicles as well. And obviously those older make model years represent great customer pay upsell opportunities as well, because those older vehicles need some additional repairs in addition to that recall work. On the software services side, we have a few different products. Number one that's obviously top of mind for everyone is the inventory check. What's unique about this is we allow you to view both your new and pre-owned inventory for recalled status, and we can download your inventory on a daily basis from your DMS in order to determine recall status. And we deliver what we call an inventory smart report, which I'll show a sample of in just a little bit, which actually categorizes the recalls based upon the order in which they should be repaired. So if you've got an inventory manager or reconditioning manager at your store, they really love our reports, because rather than just giving kind of a data dump of all the vehicles with recalls, we sort them in the order in which they should be repaired. For instance, if you have 10 vehicles on your lot that require an hour to repair and a couple vehicles that require 10 hours to repair, we recommend that you fix the quick repairs first, such that you can maximize the available recall-free inventory on your lot, and then you can service those vehicles that take a little bit longer when your store has some downtime, or perhaps on the weekends and so forth. Through our Open Recall API, we have a couple other unique tools. Obviously, it's important to determine the recall status as early as possible when you're communicating with your customers. So if they call into your BDC or call center to book an appointment, you can do a recall check during the service scheduling process. Somebody calls in for an oil change or scheduled maintenance or a new set of tires, you can let them know at that time that while they come in for that service, you're going to need the car a few more hours longer or another half a day in order to complete that recall repair. We've got a very unique website widget we can place on your website, so rather than redirecting consumers to the OEM site or safercar.gov, you can keep them on your website. You can allow them to see if they have a recall on their vehicle or not, but we don't actually tell them if they have what those recalls are until we collect their name, phone, and email address, such that we can turn that recalled vehicle owner into a lead for your store. Obviously, that's a pretty cool mousetrap for converting recalled vehicle owners that visit your website into leads for your store. Obviously, the ability to check auctions or trade-in vehicles for their recall status before you take acquisition of a vehicle. So there's nothing worse than buying a level 5 high-risk recalled vehicle where you don't have parts available, and next thing you know, you've got kind of a depreciating asset sitting on your property, on your lot. So we'll talk about these specific programs in more depth. The recall communications product is one that dealers are hot on. We can typically find 2 to 3 times more recalled vehicle owners than you may currently know about in your market. So if you surf over to our website, you can actually request a open recall count report for your area. So you type in, obviously, your dealership address and say you want to go 25 miles out. We'll tell you how many recalled vehicles we'll find, and we'll give you a composition of what specific recalled vehicles there are in your market, broken down by a recall summary, and I'll show that in just a couple minutes here. We can identify customers both in your DMS and your market area prospects, for instance, in your PMA, if you'd like. And then where we go after we've set up your program is we'll provide the Recall Masters Academy, which consists of training your BDC or call center in addition to your service advisors on how to really give your customers the white glove treatment such that you can get additional customer pay upsell and additional vehicle sales out of these consumers. The communication program consists of 12 touch points over 7 weeks. So we're going to first start with a phone call and an email to notify them to check their mailbox and let them know that we have a recall communication coming through the postal service into their mailbox. And then we're going to continue over the next 7 weeks, 4 to 5 direct mail or the email and phone messages. We're going to leave a phone message on the 1st and 6th attempt if we don't have somebody answer the phone. And then all of our communications we deliver aim to be both NHTSA compliant and OEM compliant. So we are familiar with the franchise guidelines that you have in place, and we are familiar with the Code of Federal Regulation 49 Part 577 guidelines from NHTSA, such that all of the communications we deliver inform the consumer of a recall on their vehicle without being heavy on the advertising or promotions. So we don't allow any service or sales promotions, no giant red call-out boxes, starbursts, for instance. We really try to focus on the recall notification explicitly, such that we're bringing the customer into your store first and foremost to get that dangerous safety recall repaired, and then we'll let your store, through the academy training, work on doing a multi-point inspection, upselling additional services, mining the service lane for vehicle sales, and so forth. So the first email that goes out is strategically timed before the direct mail piece hits the mailbox. So that first communication tells the consumer to check their mailbox, and we develop and we deliver follow-up emails on weeks 2, 3, 5, and 7. We also have a 100% recall-focused call center. So our call center is familiar with all of the major recalls that are in the market across all of the OEMs. We have specific scripts to detail the risk posed to the consumer for all of the recalls, so we can really offer a consultation service. Again, as the consumers start to call in, the average recall phone call for a dealership is anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes in length. We cut that time in half with our call center because we're able to really succinctly speak to the consumer about the risk posed by that recall. We walk them through the process. It's not done hastily at all, and they really get a better sense of the recall itself, and they have a better feeling toward your dealership. So rather than feeling like they're a hassle to the dealership, or that they're being inconvenienced, or they bought a clunky automobile, this is taking what could be an otherwise negative experience and turning into a positive, customer-oriented experience with the recalled vehicle owner. So for instance, all of our scripts start with something to the effect of, "Hello, I'm Chris Miller with Toyota of Orange. On behalf of Toyota North America and our store, we apologize for this inconvenience. Your safety is our #1 priority, and we want to make it right by getting this recall repaired at no cost to you." We then ask for the recall locator number, which is printed on all of our communications across our direct mail and emails, and we're able to look them up very quickly in our system such that we can consult with them and talk with them about their recall status. So I'm going to pull up a sample of our customer lookup tool where this is what our call center sees and what your company would have access to as well, where you can see that we can talk through the risk and the remedy for this recall. We know whether or not there's parts availability, if this is an associated stop sale or don't drive recall campaign. We know what the specific risk type is, whether it's a collision risk, a fire risk, a safety risk, an emissions risk. And all of this information is obviously very handy when we're speaking to the consumer. We know when we're on the phone with them how much labor time is associated with a recall, such that we can tell them if we're going to need the vehicle for half a day or an entire day in order to make the recall repair. We do understand that some recalls require 2 appointments, where the vehicle needs to be brought in first for an initial inspection, and then to understand what part needs to be ordered, and then the customer needs to come back maybe 3 or 4 days later. So when you can consult with them over the phone such that there's no surprises early on in this process, it really works to save the CSI of these recalled customers with the dealership. We very much understand that these recalled vehicle owners might have a negative perception going through this recalled vehicle experience. We understand that recalled vehicle owners not treated properly can hurt your CSI, and because of that, we're really giving the white glove treatment. We're being very consultative during our phone call process, during the appointment booking process, explaining the recall to them, booking the appointment up front, and because of that, they get a much better sense of the recall associated with their vehicle and end up with a better feeling in doing business with your store. Now, our call center also books the appointments directly into your appointment scheduling software, or DMS. So we have, say, corporate logins for Xtime and Time Highway, AutoLoop, CDK, Service Edge, Reynolds & Reynolds. We can connect via VPN, or we could simply just email your dealership the appointments and you can book them in your system as you please. So we're very much taking a lot of the heavy lifting and burden out of this experience. We understand that your typical call centers or BDCs, our representatives are paid on booking appointments, whereas our call center representatives are paid based upon the quality of the phone call and getting that recalled vehicle owner to come in for that recall repair, but not necessarily on the volume of appointments they're able to book in a given hour. So even down to the way that we compensate our call center agents, it's very much driven around providing a high customer experience. And that's why, rather than have that burden on your store, we offload that such that when you sign up for our program and we go through the initial consultation with your store, we determine all the recalls that we want to focus on. We exclude recalls that maybe you want to stay away from or that parts are not available for or hard to come by. And we can then book the appointments for your store and keep these customers coming in. We do not send out any mailers to customers that have recalls with parts unavailable or that are nuisance sticker labels, owner's manual recalls that are really a nuisance for them to deal with. There's no specific safety risk posed to the consumer, and there's certainly not a lot of benefit for the dealer based upon those reimbursement amounts. Now, when we come in to build your recall department, it's all about instilling best practices on how to handle these recall customers on phone and in person when they come in the service lane. It's all about converting these recalls into vehicle sales and customer pay ROs. In just a few minutes, I'll show you some reports that prove just how effective this recall communications process is. We also give your store tools like that customer lookup tool where you can drill down and see the specific details related to a recall and have those at the fingertips of your team. We'll give you call center scripts. We'll give you the vehicle owner report so you know everyone that we're communicating with, how many recalled vehicle owners of a specific recall that we're calling and emailing and sending direct mail to over a given period of time. So you're ready to order parts and make sure you've got everything available on hand to handle these recalled vehicle owners when they come in the store. Obviously, this goes a tremendous way in terms of streamlining this recall management process. Now, one of the other unique factors of our program is we do offer exclusivity and market area reservation. So we're not going to do business with your competitor across the street. We're going to let you kind of own your market, and we're going to time the communication, say, over a 6 to 12-month period. So we're not flooding your service lane with recalled vehicle owners. Rather, we are taking our time to bring them in and slowly let this build up. One thing I'll mention about this program is that a recalled vehicle owner does not respond to notice right off the bat. Sometimes we see them come in 60, 90, 120 days, even 6 months after we've sent out our communications, which is why we hit them 12 times, which is why we leave voicemails on their phone, which is why we continue this ongoing effort to bring them into your store. If we see that the results of our program in your store aren't strong, we're not necessarily going to limit you to those 12 touch points either. I'm the CEO of the company. We have a lot of pride in what we do. We're very much focused on getting these recalled vehicles repaired. So if at any time any of our customers are unhappy with the program, we're happy to get more VINs out there communicated with. We're happy to send additional emails, make more phone calls, do whatever it takes to make sure that you see a strong return from our program. In line with that, we want to earn your business every day, so we don't force you into long-term contracts. We don't force you to prepay up front. Everything's very much month to month, and that's all in your best benefit as we strike to have a business that's really working for your store. That having been said, you do need to understand, as I mentioned, that recalled vehicle owners, because it's like a dental hygiene notice, right? It's not like anyone's rushing to get their recalled vehicle fixed. Sometimes they'll put these things on their refrigerators for 3 months before they come in. So you'll see that our program becomes a bit of a juggernaut. In the first 30, 60 days, you might see the results being kind of mediocre, but then as you get more and more communications out there, as we've got, say, 9,000 communications out there to recalled vehicle owners, all of a sudden, month after month, the results start stacking and you start getting a flood of recalled vehicle owners. So you really need to be committed to this process of being the go-to dealership in your area for these recalled vehicle owners. And once you commit to this process, you'll see that it's a long-term strategy. It's very effective in bringing in recalled vehicle owners and keeping them coming back and retaining them and being that store that everyone associates with in your community as being a little more safety-oriented, consumer-oriented, and the go-to source for their recall repairs. Obviously, the backbone of our business is our data. So we very much focus, obviously, on the open recall opportunities where there's parts available. We exclude expired recalls, and we exclude the new recalls that are less than 90 days old. So what we try to do is let the OEM notices do what they do. When a new recall is issued, we let the OEM send out their own communications to the consumers, and we give the consumers 90 days to come into the dealership of their choice, and then we aim to pick up where they leave off. So we're trying to work in tandem with what the OEM's already doing. The difference is with our recall communications versus what the dealership or versus what the OEM is sending out is our program really focuses on bringing the customers into your specific store. So all of the phone numbers that are printed on the piece, the addresses, the points of contact, all point back to your store. We don't send generic notices that say, you know, come into any store, or go on to Google Maps and find a store in your area, or go to the OEM website and find a store in your area. We're telling them where to go based upon the geography of the consumer that you've signed up for, and we're bringing those customers into your store. And our call center knows that recalled vehicle owners do have a choice of where they can go, so we're very much going to upsell the benefits of doing business with your store. Maybe you have a really nice waiting room with big screen TVs and a coffee shop and donuts. You wash every car that comes in. You give a loaner car or transportation services. You're giving away a $25 or $50 gift card for the inconvenience to these consumers. Whatever these exclusive benefits are, so long as they're tied to the recall repair itself, we will use at the call center level to explain the advantages of why they should take their recalled vehicle to your store to get a better experience throughout the recall resolution process. Next, we're going to score the recalls by profitability and risk. So again, we exclude these nuisance or stickers recalls, owner manuals recalls. We rank every recall on a scale of 1 to 5 in terms of risk and profitability, and we very much focus on the recalls that both pose a specific safety risk to the consumer and make money for your store where there's parts available. So we're really bringing in quality traffic. Now, perhaps one of the most unique parts of our program is the digital forensic process we go through to find the current owners. It's not important to us to know if a vehicle owner, say, owns a Toyota or owns a Honda. We need to know if they own that specific VIN with that specific recall on it. So we go to a lot of alternative data sources, such as XM, Sirius Satellite Radio, Jiffy Lube, Wheelworks, the independent repair centers of the world, roadside assistance dispatch offices for tow truck companies, insurance companies where possible, state DMVs where possible across 19 states in the U.S., in order to aggregate all of the information such that we have as many, a chunk of these 253 million vehicle owners across the U.S. as we can. And then we're able to append phone and email addresses. Right now on screen it shows a 40% match rate, but recently we've got that up into the 60% plus range. We're able to get both a phone and an email address for these consumers. We do an enhanced address append as well, so we know if somebody's moved, if somebody has an address verification. This is much further above and beyond a simple NCOA process you might be familiar with, because we actually go out to external databases to confirm the vehicle owner information, to take the time to do a title check to see if the vehicle's been salvaged or repossessed or totaled in an accident at some point, such that we're really focused on recalled vehicle owners that are still driving these vehicles and actively servicing them. Because of all this, we're able to target and reserve VINs by zip code in your area. Again, we're able to find 2 to 3 times more VINs than you may be aware of from your DMS or from what the OEM is reporting to you, and a lot of that is because of all these secondary, third, fourth, fifth owners of recalled vehicles that are out there. I'm going to take just one moment and give you an idea of some of the results we see through our program. So let's see if I can zoom in here just a little bit. So this is a dealership on our program in Southern California. You see that we delivered 1,000 communications per month for this store. They had 158 ROs. That's a 15.8% response rate. You can see just how incredible some of the response rates are from this program because of the quality of the data. Whoops, let me go back to one. I realize I'm at the wrong report here. go back one screen. Okay, there we go. So we do obviously a series of drops over months. So in this case, we are communicating with 1,000 recalled vehicle owners. You can see the unique customers that we're bringing in. From a total RO standpoint, we're very much concerned with the rate at which we're retaining these customers. So this is where you see this repeat rate. So with this current customer, we dropped 1,000 communications. We had 125 unique customers come in. We had, of those 125 customers, 26% of them came back afterwards. So this campaign started back last November. So far, we've had 26% of them come back for an additional visit. So you could see that this dealership really embraced the Academy program that we put in place, and you can see how high the response rates are and how high the retention rates are if you treat these customers well. Obviously, this is one of our marquee stores I'm showing you, but just to show you how well you can do on this program. Additionally, they've generated $745,000 so far in $745,000 in warranty revenue from the program and $383,000 in customer pay revenue. So the great thing about this dealership is that they are getting almost 50% customer pay upsell because they do a multi-point inspection on every vehicle. They've been able to get an additional 50% customer pay upsell above and beyond the warranty work. That means over half of the customers are coming in and getting additional customer pay work, which has come down to a net of $1,128,000 in total service revenue into their store. Additionally, because they're mining the service lane very diligently for these recalled vehicle owners, and because they have such a high retention rate, these customers are coming back in and buying vehicles at a very high rate. So they've sold over 204 vehicles to recalled vehicle owners that we've brought in their store and generated over $4 million in vehicle sales. Now, obviously, we can't take credit for all of these vehicle sales. The quality of the staff at the store itself has a lot to do with getting additional customer pay revenue and vehicle sales out of these customers that we bring in. But this is why the Academy program is so important in getting your staff up to speed with treating these recalled vehicle owners properly, such that you can boost above and beyond this warranty revenue figure additional customer pay revenue and additional vehicle sales through mining the service lane. From an ROI standpoint, every customer that comes in the store from our program brings in tremendous profit. You see every customer that comes in is in the $200–300 range in profit for every RO. So the way we calculate this by default is we assume a 40% margin on warranty work and a 58% customer pay margin and $1,500 margin for front-end vehicle sales, front-end profit on vehicle sales. Obviously, if we did a report for your store, we would plug in your numbers so that they would be relevant based upon your warranty margin and your customer pay margin. So this store generated $520,000 in service profit, about $306,000 in vehicle sales profit, for a gross profit of $826,000 on our program. Now, they invested with our program. It's not cheap. We're not going to lie. Our program's pretty expensive. But for a $47,000 investment in our program to generate this $826,000 in profit, they ended up with a net profit of $778,000, which is equivalent to $17.38 return for every dollar they bring in. So that's obviously tremendous ROI. So even though dollar for dollar our program's expensive, when you think about how high these response rates are from our program and how important it is to treat the customers right so you get retention and vehicle sales, the ROI really starts to become quite killer. And we can show this time and time again across many of our stores. So let's take another store, for example. A little bit lower response rate on this store. So obviously every dealer doesn't have killer results right off the bat, but they've generated a 4.6% response rate, 488 unique customers come in from our program. And you might look at this and say, well, geez, how is that other dealer in the 12%, 12 to 15% response range, and this one's at 4.6%, and I'll explain that in just a minute. You see the dealer's doing quite a good job still retaining customers. we find on average a recalled vehicle owner can be retained at about a 19% rate. The dealers that are doing it well are into the 30% range. So it's really important, again, to take the Academy information to heart such that you can retain these vehicle owners and keep them coming back for additional work. This dealership is doing a killer job doing a multi-point inspection on every vehicle, so they've almost have close to 75% customer pay upsell in addition to their warranty work. They've generated $350,000 on the program, $1.6 million in vehicle sales off of 47 specific vehicles sold. Now, one thing I want to show you with this report, in case you're looking at that low response rate, is when you look at this customer type report, we show that 210 of these 487 unique customers that have come in, 210 of them were new customers that have never visited the store before. So this specific dealership really wanted to focus on bringing new customers in, so we put a slight slant on the new customers as we delivered our communications. As a result, if you can imagine, having a 2.6% response rate on a communications program like this toward driving new customers in the store is pretty tremendous. We have a repeat customer rate of 21%, so these customers are doing, this dealership's doing a heck of a job bringing customers back into the store that are new customers. They've got an average RO of $550 for these new customers. So again, because we target a lot of these older make model year customers, you're doing a multi-point inspection on these vehicles, you're getting additional customer pay work. You see that the new customers are spending money at just as high as the rate as some of these prior customers that have been into the dealership before. And PS, they're buying cars, right? Of these 47 vehicle sales, we see 18 of those were the new customers that had never visited the store before. They got their warranty work done, and at some point they came back and traded in their vehicle for a new vehicle, or they came back in down the road and got a new vehicle down the road, or they came in the first time and traded in their vehicle. So mining the service lane is a very important aspect of the program. And if we step off and do any specific demos for your dealership following this call, we can show you more reports, perhaps specific to your make and perhaps specific to your area. We got just a couple minutes left here, so I'm going to go ahead and continue through the end of this presentation and then take some phone calls. So we have a inventory monitoring service where we can identify both your new and pre-owned vehicles with recalls. We're going to send you an automated alert either via text message or email as we run your inventory every night. The nice thing is that our smart reports do not get delivered on a daily basis. We only deliver a report to your email inbox if new recalls are found. So you don't get these every day. You only get them as we discover new recalls. So as new recalls are issued, we have what we call a 0-day or same-day recall discovery. So as soon as that recall comes out from the OEM, we're going to be updating your inventory report so you knew that recall came out. This obviously helps to reduce the liability and exposure of your dealership with selling these recalled vehicles. We've seen dealerships getting fined as high as $20,000 per vehicle sold if they sell a recalled vehicle. So obviously our program really pays for itself. When you think of our inventory monitoring service at just a few $100s a month, it really pays for itself. And we include this, currently we're offering a special to include this with any communication sign up, or you can buy this as a standalone product. Obviously this increases your compliance and the brand integrity of your store as you're able to tout your store as being a dealership that cares more about consumer safety. So we can get this up and running in under 24 hours and give you a free trial. We have a self-service dashboard where you can upload your inventory files and see all the recalls associated with these vehicles, or we can download your inventory from your DMS directly. So here's an example of what that smart report looks like that comes out of our system and comes in your email inbox. It's sorted first by the makes that are affected by these vehicles, and you can see that we're putting recalls that have parts available at the top. We're sorting by level of difficulty. We're sorting by the vehicles that are most affected, such that you're fixing the vehicles first that you can fix in a short amount of time that are high risk and affect the most vehicles on your lot, and you can knock out these 8 vehicles in order to maximize the recalls, recall-free vehicles on your lot. Again, since this is across your across all OEMs, we're generating this report for both new and used cars on your lot. We also offer a VIN Check service or auction check service. You can look up the recall status during the appointment scheduling process. You could upload batch VINs from the auction manifest from the Mannheims or Odessas of the world, and you could integrate our API in any custom applications or your website or your dealer mobile app. One of the cooler services we have, I'm going to skip through the screen real quick in the interest of time. I showed you the recall lookup tool. Get back to pricing in just one moment. One of the cooler services we have is a website widget. So this is where we will create a recall department page, landing page on your site with our website widget, where again the recalled vehicle owner or any consumer can type in their VIN to check the recall status, and this would go underneath the service tab of your site, such that your store too could have the recall department. The phone number on this recall department page can ring directly to our call center. So again, you don't need to just have our communications driving in traffic or phone calls to our call center. We can manage all of your recall phone calls from your recall department webpage, from the website widget we place on the site, to all of the communications. You could even add a phone extension at your dealership primary telephone number that will route a call directly to our call center, such that we can handle all of your recall phone calls, and that's included with our base monthly fee. So you don't have to pay more for that. We're happy to take these phone calls and book appointments directly into your system. One of the other cool things you could do with this website widget is imagine pulling all of the email addresses out of your DMS and sending an email blast periodically that says, as a dealership in the community that cares more about consumer safety, we've added a new recall department to our store. Please log on to our website, check your VINs, all of the VINs in your household. So this is not just the VIN specific to your OEM. They can check all of the VINs in their household and sign up for an ongoing monitoring service where you will let them know, send them an alert if any of the vehicles in their household have a recall. Great opportunity to provide ongoing branding for your store. In those ongoing communications that go out and those recall alerts, you can include service and sales offers, since they have at this point opted in to receive these communications from your store. And obviously this works great at driving a lot of traffic back to your website. Again, if we're doing prospecting of recalled vehicle owners that have never come into your store before, or we're sending out to your DMS, it's a great way to bring traffic in a lot of these lost customers or older make model year vehicle owners that might end up taking a look at the inventory on your website and perhaps coming in for a trade-in or additional purchase of a vehicle. I'm going to very quickly go through kind of our base program pricing. We charge a $1,000 one-time program planning fee. This includes coming to our DMS, doing a acquisition of all of the prospect VINs in your area. We have a communications plan, which I can bring up one moment. So where this process starts with your store is giving you a count of all of the prospects we found in your market, lost customers, active customers in your market. So in this case, we found 24,000 recalled vehicle owners for this dealership. We'll look over the geography map in your area. So obviously we'll know where your store is, we'll know where your competitors are, and we'll help build a geography map that makes the most sense for who we want to target. And then we're going to lay out a 12-month communication schedule. So in this case, because they had just over 24,000 VINs, we said let's do 2,000 a month over the next 12 months, such that they're able to have a stable budget and get stable flow of traffic into their store, and they can see what that total annual communications cost is going to be given all of the recalls that are in the area. Again, we're able to break down the recalls by the distance that we're able to go. If your dealership's in a little more rural area, we can go out 50, 75 miles if that makes sense. If you're in a major metro city, we usually don't go further than 20 miles out. During this consultation process, we also continue with doing a deep dive in all the recalls that we found in your area. So in this case, for this dealer, we went 25 miles and found 38,000 recalled vehicle owners. We see that 1,500 of those vehicle owners have a Jeep with a high profit recall because it takes 3.5 hours to repair. It's not the most risky recall to the consumer, but we still give it an overall score of 5 because it's so high profitability to the dealer. So obviously this is a great one to bring in for the dealership because it makes them quite a bit of money. So what we'll do with your store when we do the consultation is we look at all of the recalls in your market, and you can go ahead and exclude the recalls that you're not interested in based upon this summary report that we generate. So we'll go over all of the brands that your store is able to service. For instance, we know these driver airbags are hard to come by if you're not in the southeast states, so we would probably want to exclude these recalls from the program right off the bat. And we'll go ahead and obviously retool the communications plan based upon the revised numbers once we figure out exactly what we want to target with our communications program. So all of that is takes place up front as we go through the communications plan. We develop the creative pieces and the emails and the telephone scripts and the exclusive benefits with your store. We set up our call center to be able to book appointments directly in your system. We place test phone calls. We make sure that you're satisfied with all of the communications you're getting from our store. We'll provide that departmental training of our Recall Masters Academy. So all that takes place up front. And then on an ongoing basis, we're going to provide performance reporting. So we're going to go into the DMS and make sure that we're tracking all of the responders that are coming in, and we're providing a very clear customer type report so you know that we're not just bringing in existing customers, that we're bringing in new customers on a continuous basis. We want to provide these performance reports. We're going to provide call tracking services. We're going to listen to the phone So we redevelop a communications plan for your store, and we just start over again tackling all the new recalls that have come out. Obviously, it's very much a continuous process. On an ongoing basis, we deliver these recall communications across direct mail, email, and those 6 call attempts. And so that's where the emails and the phone calls come in again, and we leave a message on that first and 6th call attempt. On the software services side, we provide pricing based upon the service that you want and the number of inventory VINs. So this includes your website widget, being able to check your auction list manifest, having the recall department web page on your site, and the inventory monitoring. So it's really based kind of upon the size of your dealership. And we'll work with you on a custom proposal incorporating both the communication services and the software services as we go. It takes about 3 weeks to get up and running with our program. All of the setup and training happens in week 1 and 2, and we get communications out by the end of the 2nd week, and in week 3 we're already seeing response come in, so we'll monitor those initial results. One of the nice things, since recalled vehicle owners don't respond right away, is that we're able to kind of get a slow start monitoring the program, making sure all the kinks and bugs are worked out, do retrainings as necessary to your staff, work with our call center to make sure they're really doing things properly. And then as these recalled vehicle owners start to come in more and more and more, volume as we get more communications out there, we really start humming along. So this program really becomes quite a juggernaut. All right, at this point, I'm ready to take questions. Sorry, I have Dan Bears, who's on the line as our COO, but I'm Chris Miller, the CEO of the company. So thank you guys for taking the time so far to listen to this presentation.
All right, this is Brian. Hey, I've got a couple questions for you. These first two sound like they came together. How many attempts should we make to reach a safety recall, and are we still liable if we can document that we made an attempt to contact customers?
Well, the liability at this stage is at the OEM level, not at the dealer level. So there's no liability for a dealership to contact a recalled vehicle owner currently. This is strictly for you guys to kind of do the right thing and bring these recalled vehicle owners into your store. But it's the OEM that has liability currently. Where the dealership has liability is if they sell a new vehicle with an open recall on it. That's where the inventory monitoring service is really critical. And that's where I think really every dealer should start to stop the bleeding of getting these recalled vehicles on the road in the first place.
All right. Got another question here. Where is your call center located?
That's great. Our current call center is located in Puerto Rico. The beauty of that is these are both bilingual and English speakers, so or Spanish and English speakers, so they can actually switch on the fly between languages and without having to transfer to a Spanish speaker when they're on the phone. We have very, very carefully vetted these reps so that they speak very clear English without an accent, and we have very much a tier 1 call center because of that.
Okay. Is the training delivered via the web?
That's right. It's via GoToMeeting, and so long as you're on our program, we have no problem doing retrainings on a monthly basis as you have new staff come on and off the program. They come in and out of your store.
Okay. What percentage of recall appointments should result in a vehicle sale?
On the low end, we see 6% of recalled vehicle owners that come into a store resulting in a vehicle sale. On the high end, we see about 10% of recalled vehicle owners. So if you're mining that service lane, so basically if we're delivering, say, 1,000 communications per month across direct mail, email, and telephone, you're going to see 6 out of every 1,000 communications that we deliver result in a vehicle sale, and which is kind of on the low end. If you're doing a really good job, you could get that number up to 10 vehicles sold per month, just on our low-end program with 1,000 communications per month.
All right. And then how does a dealership get started?
We have a lead form on our website you can fill out, which is to request a free recall count. And at that time, we will figure out what the initial estimates look like of counts in your market area, and we will give you a call and run you through a demo. This same demo I've given you is the one that we do more or less during our standard sales presentation, so you can actually skip the demo if you want, and we can move right to the proposal if you've seen enough from this demo. But we would jump right into that consultation most likely in the case of anyone that visited this webinar, where we look at all of the recalls that are in your market. We can decide which ones we want to include and exclude, kind of come up with a baseline price. We can offer dealer group pricing. Because we have these dealers participating in this webinar today, we do want to offer some additional perks, like maybe reduced setup fee and a software services for the first, say, 60, 90 days, where we'll add that website widget to your website, where we'll provide the inventory monitoring service at no additional charge, just to get dealers to come on board and join our program.
All right. Well, it looks like that's all the questions. If anybody else has any questions, please type them in, quickly. This is Brian Ankney again with AutoSuccess. I'd like to take a moment to thank everybody for coming, and especially I'd like to thank Chris Miller. Chris, thank you for sharing all this great information with our listeners, and we'd love to have you back for a future webinar. Is there anything that you would like to share with our listeners before we let them go, Chris?
I think I'm good. I've done enough talking here today.
All right. That's fair enough. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for coming. I hope to see you all on a future webinar. Go out, join AutoSuccess webinars on Facebook, and go sell some more cars. Have a great afternoon.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody.